Hello, my YouTube family. Welcome again to another Narc Survivor live video. In this one, we do have a very interesting topic. Speaking about why the narcissist holds on to you for their lives. Why won't they just let you go? Why won't they let you be free? Why won't they let you escape? Because quite clearly this has nothing to do with love. I mean, just look back at your relationship with them. Clearly it was you who loved them, or at least you thought you did. And that was just an extension of your own self-love. You love yourself. And that's why they mirrored you. They reflected back to you your own qualities and virtues, instead of them just being themselves, even though, as we know, they have no self anyway. But that's why they did that, because they can kind of see it that, yes, you do love yourself. You do have good self-esteem, self-worth. And that's why they reflect back to you your own qualities and virtues, rather than what they are actually about. Because although many of you won't like to hear this, the reality is they're not about what you're about. They do not want what you want. They don't even care about it. They have no interest in that whatsoever. They may pretend like they do, but that's all just an act. They create a false character and they tailor make it for you. They reflect back to you your own qualities and virtues. They reflect back to you what you're about, what they know that you like, what turns you on, what makes you tick. It has nothing to do with them. They completely switched themselves up as soon as they got around you. They're not about that at all. They never were. But they know that you're about that. And not only that, they know that to some level, yes, you love yourself, you have high self-esteem. So naturally, of course, they're going to mirror you. They're going to imitate you, mimic you, reflect back to you your own qualities, virtues, interests, and ideals. Because of course, that's going to attract you. That's going to lure you in. That's going to make you think that you do want them, that you do like them, that you are interested in them. Well, what you need to understand is that that was just a mask. And because of your own self-love, which you then extended onto them, that's why you didn't want to let them go. That's why you were afraid if they would cheat, if they would leave you, because you extended your own self-love onto them. So then if they go, it's like there goes your self-love, and then you start to develop this low self-esteem and feeling like you're not good enough. When if you have never met them, that never would have happened. It's because they got you to extend your own self-love onto them. That's how it works. But for them, it's very different. Remember, all they did was just reflect back to you your own qualities and virtues in the beginning. And really, all that it is with them is that you just become an extension of their own self-hatred. Yes, they hate themselves, they can't stand themselves. Why do you think they created a false character? Why do you think they mirrored you? Why do you think they try to appeal to your own interests and ideals rather than coming in as themselves? Although, as I mentioned earlier, they actually have no identity of their own. They're chameleons, shapeshifters. They can be whatever they think you want them to be, but they're not about that themselves. If they were about that, they would have been about it. If they were about what you were about, things would have worked out perfectly for you. But they didn't, and instead, you developed a lot of bitterness, resentment, anger, frustration. And if you really look at that, what is that about? That's because you're frustrated because you can't make things how you want them to be. You can't change the situation. And when you look at it, that really makes no sense at all, because if they like what you like and you're on the same page, where would those emotions come from? Why are you feeling anger, bitterness, frustration to the point where you're getting on here to find videos such as this? That never would have happened if you were dealing with someone who is real and authentic. And they actually are similar to you. They share your interests and ideals. They share your qualities and virtues. If that was the reality of it, it never would have got to that point. So that's how you know that, yes, they are being fake. Yes, they are chameleons, shapeshifters. Yes, they have a false character. That is how you know that. And of course, that's why after a certain amount of time, they begin to turn against you. They devalue you, while at the same time they're copying and mimicking you. And they're running off with this false character, which is concocted of bits and pieces of you and other people before you. And they may even use that to attract someone else. I mean, just think about that for a moment. They're like using something that came from within you, something that you created, and then they're using that to attract someone else. I mean, that is really just crazy when you think about it. But that's exactly what they do, and at the same time, they hate you and turn against you. You become an extension of their own self-hatred, and then at the same time, they can't let you go. Because if you were to go and they just let you move on, and especially you find someone who's actually about that for real, then their self-hatred would turn inwards. It would come back at them. And of course, they don't want that to happen. They want that to stay with you. They have to hate you so that they don't end up hating themselves. Because yes, they do hate themselves. They just want to reflect on that. So they deflect it onto you. But yeah, it can be very confusing when it's like they hate you, but they won't let you go. They won't let you leave. They won't let you escape. They hold on to you for their lives. And they act like they're about what you're about, as though they're on the same page. But as I've said, I mean, this is really the core of the issue. And it's why there's hundreds of millions of views on narcissism on YouTube. Because people are getting together with narcissistic people who are self-absorbed and they lack empathy. They only care about themselves. They only care about their own fantasy that they've created in their minds. You're getting involved with people like that. You're hooking up with them. And they're just not about what you're about. Yes, I know in the beginning they made you believe that they were. That's the problem. That is the core of the issue. Because you're coming into it being real. You're like, yes, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I'm about. And you're not holding them up to any expectations. They're not obliged to do or be anything, but it's more they're coming in with this false image and they're like, yes, this is who I am. I'm just like you. I'm about what you're about. But they're really not. They're not about that at all, and they never were. They were never like that. That was just you. And I know it can hurt to hear this because it's like you thought you were bonding with someone. You thought you were connecting. You thought you had a lover, a relationship partner, a friend, but they were never that at all. The things that you like, your interests, the things that you thought that they were about, they're not really about that at all. If they were, then they would have been about it. They would have been about that a long time ago. But instead, they lied to you, they future faked. I mean, whatever it was that you wanted, whatever it was that in some ways intrigued them, spiked their curiosity to where they then felt drawn to you, but then at the same time they saw it as a weakness that they could exploit. I mean, maybe you wanted a relationship, family, marriage, children, whatever it was. Maybe you wanted to go on trips with someone. Whatever fantasy, whatever dream you had. But you wanted to make that a reality. And they made you believe that they were about that as well. But here's what you've got to understand about narcissists. They don't care about reality. That does nothing for them. All they care about is the fantasy in their minds. When they were a child, they abandoned their true self because they believed it wasn't good enough. So they created a fantasy character to exist in a fantasy world, an alternate reality which they pull other people into. And then you imagine these improbable things together. You live in this fantasy world, you fantasize, as Sam Vaknin called it, it's the shared fantasy. He coined that term. And yeah, you go down the rabbit hole. It's like Alice in Wonderland. And you experience this fantasy with them. But in the end, you're the one who's always left disappointed or dissatisfied. It's always you, because unlike them, and this goes back to how I said, you love yourself, you have high self-esteem. Because in your childhood, you never abandoned your true self. You never created a false character. That was you all along. You were always that way. So, of course, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be dissatisfied because you don't want a fantasy. You don't want a dream. You do want reality. And that's why you end up feeling so bitter, resentful, frustrated, like it's so unfair, like they did you wrong. That's why you feel that way. Because you were about it for real. You actually wanted that. Those were your ideals, your interests, your values. That was what you stood for. And they could see that you had the self-love, and they made you extend it onto them. They got you to idealize them. And that's how they got in. That's how they gained access to you. Because in a way, you could argue that we do have our own dreams, we have our own fantasies, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the difference between us and them, they can live in a fantasy for the rest of their lives. And many of them, they do. You can see them in old age, they're still the same. Just stuck in this fantasy in their heads. They act grandiose. They're so narcissistic. They're so vain, they act like they love themselves when really it's all just a dream. While as for us, yeah, we have, I mean, you could say it's a dream, a fantasy. I mean, that's more for them. For us, it's more of a vision. We envision things. And when you look at it, anything in this world, it started off as a vision. It started off as just something that a person imagined in their heads. Just like my YouTube channel. At one point, this was just a vision, maybe even just a fantasy. The difference is you then, because you want to make it a reality, because it does something for you, you're actually about it, you want to bring it into reality. They don't want to bring it into reality. They want to share the fantasy with you just so they can gain power and control over you. Remember, they're self-absorbed, or they lack empathy. They don't care about you. They don't care about what you're getting or not getting out of it. It's not about you. It has nothing to do with you at all. All they care about is their narcissistic supply, their validation. And it may look like sometimes they're doing something for you, but they're only doing something for you if it's doing something for them. It's a means to an end, just to get something out of you, to exploit you. They're never going to do anything out of the goodness of their hearts, because they genuinely care about you, because they want to make you happy. It's never going to be like that with a narcissist. That's never going to be how it is with them. But sometimes you think it is because that's what you're like. You can do something for someone and then just walk away, expect nothing in return. But narcissists, they don't think that way. Everything they do, it's always for themselves. They don't even view you as a separate real person. They view you as an object, and they even view themselves as an object as well. And you're also a mirror, an extension of them. And every interaction, every engagement with you is just to create this reflection of how they want to see and feel about themselves. And that's as deep as it goes. There's never any connection. It's like they don't even know that you're even there. And sometimes you may catch it. And this is how you will know that you're in the shared fantasy, this dream, because they can't come into reality. Sometimes you will sense it once you develop the awareness of it. When you're arguing with them, or when you feel disappointed, you feel dissatisfied with whatever they're doing or not doing, just stop for a moment and think, who am I? What do I like? What am I about? What am I interested in? Does this have anything to do with me? So what am I doing here? How did I end up in this? That's what you've got to think. And then you'll realize the entire thing was a dream, a shared fantasy. That entire time they imposed a false character on you. And yet you wonder why you feel so miserable, so down, why you lack energy and enthusiasm. Because that's not even the real you. And then when you come back to yourself, it's like you're revived. Your energy comes back to you. You feel more alive. Because then you're connecting to yourself again. They can't connect to you. So whenever you're around them, you're always going to feel lost. You're always going to feel like you're not even there. You don't even exist. That's all that it's ever going to be with them. That's going to be your experience. And it's never going to be any better than that. And this is why they hold on to you for their lives. It's to keep the shared fantasy going. But again, not because they care about it, not because it matters to them, not because they feel anything. They do not feel what you feel. They don't share your experience. I mean, they do at a cognitive level, but not affectively. They can't actually feel it. They can only read into it. And yeah, they see what you're about. They see what you like. They see what you're interested in. And it's kind of like a predator. It's kind of like a child molester. I mean, I don't really want to describe this, but it's the best way that I can think to really explain this to you, and for you to be able to envision it in your mind. It's kind of like if you imagine a child just playing a game. I mean, I would say a board game, but they don't really play board games much anymore. It's more like video games and stuff. So just imagine this hypothetical situation where it's like a child is playing a video game, and then this child molester walks over and pretends to be interested in that. They pretend like they're about it. They love video games. So then they talk about the game with the child. They play the game. And the child may foolishly think that this person is actually interested in the game, or interested in them and what they like. So they may think they're developing a friendship, a bond, a connection, when actually this person just wants to molest them. And when it comes to children being molested, that has nothing to do with sexual attraction, pleasure, or even gratification. That's all really just about power and control. That's all that really is. And child molesters are narcissists as well, as I've mentioned before. So it's the exact same thing with them. Just imagine, like in that scenario, you are the child, and it's like they're coming over to you. They're pretending to show an interest in what you like, what you're about, when they don't even care for it. That doesn't even matter to them. They just know that you like yourself and you like what you're doing, what you're absorbed in. And then they're coming over and pretending to be about that. And they're not about that at all. They're just trying to gain power and control over you. And this is why when you get in relationships with them, it's like, it seems like they're about that in the beginning, and then later on it suddenly stops. It's like one moment you are having deep conversations, philosophical discussions, or maybe you had a good sex life with a narcissist, and then before you know it, they're withholding sex from you. You no longer have any deep discussions. And then you're wondering what happened, what went wrong, what changed, what did you do? Because of course, as empaths, we blame ourselves. But you got to look at them. Why did they change? And the reason why is because they were never about that. They just knew that you were about it. And you may have been the one who introduced that into their lives. They may never have known about that before. They may never have heard about it until they got involved with you. And then they tailor-made this character especially for you, to groom you, to condition you, to keep you around as their source of supply, to maintain power and control over you, just so they can keep sucking the energy out of you. Which, ironically enough, I mean, it's just a vicious cycle. They do all of this. They construct the false character to get this energy out of you, to then supply the false character and keep the illusion going. So it's a vicious circle. It just goes on and on. So that's all they're really trying to do, is to keep this false reality going on, to keep this false character alive. That's the whole purpose of it. It has nothing to do with loving you, missing you, caring about you, wanting to connect to you. It's got nothing to do with that at all. I mean, just look back. How many opportunities did they have to do that? They could have done that with you a long time ago. They didn't. I mean, come on, if they're really about that, if they really like what you like, then why are you watching this video right now? I mean, that's what you've got to think. If they really love you, if they really care about you, where are they right now? They would be there. They would be there for you. But they're not. And it's really sad. I mean, of course, it pains me. It pains me to see the hundreds of millions of views on this topic on YouTube alone. I mean, all of the platforms that there are. And all of these different channels, all of these videos. You're all being tricked. You're all being fooled. And there's so many of these people out there who tailor-make these false characters. And it's all just for attention and validation. They're not even about that. They don't even care about it. They portray the outer image, but they're not on that frequency. It doesn't do anything for them. And you wonder why you feel so bitter, so resentful, so frustrated at the end of it. And it's because you thought they were about something. And then that's why you just end up putting in more and more effort. You're giving all of your energy to it. They take up all of your time. You're like a little hamster running on this wheel, endlessly trying to please them, in the hopes that one day this dream will come true. The lies, the future faking, it will become a reality. It won't. It never will. Because you were tricked. You were lied to. You were deceived. You were fooled. They never cared about that. They were never about it. It never mattered to them. And you got to look at it. I mean, some of you, you've been in this relationship now for 1 year, 5 years, 20 years. I mean, something would have happened by now. It doesn't take that long. If someone really wants something, they're going to make it happen. They're going to find a way. I mean, it's pretty easy to do if you're with someone who actually wants it for real. I mean, all you got to do is just make sure you're doing your part. And that's when you should know, you should figure out. They don't want what you want. Forget about what they're saying to you. Forget about what they're displaying to you. It doesn't matter. Is anything happening? Is anything coming into reality? No, it's not. And this is the core of the issue. This is what narcissistic abuse is all about. It's about being manipulated, fooled, tricked into thinking that someone is about what you're about. When they're self-absorbed, they lack empathy, they're just using you to get what they want. With this attention, validation. Just validate this fantasy in their heads, this dream, so they can feel good about themselves. Validate the false character, the illusion. And that's all that they really want. They don't care about reality, they hate reality. They don't want anything to do with that. That's why they create a false character. They run from reality. They engage in escapism. They drink alcohol, do drugs. They go to bars, nightclubs. They'd rather go to a bar or a nightclub than to stay at home with you and cuddle on the couch. What's that about? Exactly. Because everything they said, it was all a lie. They don't want love. They don't want connection. They don't want commitment. I mean, how long have they been acting like they want that from you? How long have they been doing that? You've got to look back and really just count how long it's been. And then realize that quite clearly they do not want it. If they wanted it, they would have got it, they would have had it, because you wanted that. That's how they knew when they got involved with you. They reflected this back to you, what you were about. And then once you get involved with them, it's like you go down the rabbit hole, and it's like they impose all of these other things onto you that they want, that they're about, or whatever they think is going to keep you stuck, by making you forget about what you actually wanted. Yeah, you get pulled into the rabbit hole, and you get stuck in an abusive situation where you're being gaslighted, you're being told all of these distorted things about yourself and who you are. When at some point you got to go back before you got involved with them and remember, what was it that you actually wanted? What was it that meant something to you? What were you drawn to? What did you desire? What were your goals and dreams? Because I'm sure it's very different to what you're in now, to what you're going through right now. I'm sure it's very different to that. And it's sad, it really is. Because you had all of these goals and dreams. I mean, this is your life. This is your experience in this world. And it's not even what you wanted. You wanted something else. And now this is what you've got. It's not just you. As I said, there's hundreds of millions of views, maybe billions on YouTube for videos on this topic. A lot of people have had their lives robbed from them. And then it creates this cycle where some people are like, I got my life robbed from me. Now I'm going to rob yours. Now I'm just going to use you, just like I was used. And again, that's really sad, even for those people, because they weren't like that before. Before someone came in and manipulated them, used them. So a lot of people are having undue power over each other. And they're altering the course of people's lives. Because you just got to think, before you got involved with them, before you even knew that they even existed, your life was on a completely different course. You were on a different path. You got pulled off of that. This means that a large percentage of people in this world are not living the lives that they're supposed to be living. And yet we look around and we wonder, why are the two most common illnesses in the world of the mind. Anxiety, depression. I mean, there's all of this connection. We've got social media. All you got to do is just go on your phone. It's very easy just to send a text, make a call. So why are the two most common illnesses of the mind? Anxiety and depression. How could that be possible? And especially among the youth. There's all of these suicides. There's kids that are teenagers already taking their own lives. Many of them being bullied online. Why is this happening? It's because everyone's living in a dream. They're living in a fantasy, and especially this generation. I mean, for me, I was fortunate because I didn't even have a mobile phone until I was about 14 or 15. And even then, it wasn't a camera phone. It didn't have internet. That wasn't until much later on. Now we've got these phones with social media. And imagine that, there's kids out there. They could be toddlers that hold in phones, iPads. They're on TikTok, Facebook. They're living in alternate virtual realities from the very beginning. They're entertaining these virtual worlds. And it's all just a fantasy. This isn't even real. This isn't even real. Even what you're seeing right now. I mean, I get on here to give you this information. But even myself, there are different sides of me in real life. I'm not always like this. I'm not always so serious. I'm not always so logical. There is another fun side to me. And you might see a little bit of it sometimes, but it doesn't last for long. Because this isn't why I get on here. I get on here to share this information, to help you. And this is a channel on narcissistic abuse. I'm a life coach, a relationship expert. And I'm telling you that even what you're seeing right now, even this isn't real. And we've got all of these kids who are hooked up to these machines, these devices, from a very young age. The phone, the computer, is an extension of them. It's like they have an avatar, a false character. This virtual world is an illusion. This is why, in my belief is that these phones, technology, social media, it is promoting narcissism. It really is. It's the exact same thing. Because as we know, what creates narcissism is the cognitive dissonance, the two conflicted beliefs, where on one hand it's like you're perfect, and then on the other, you're a piece of shit. And this is how it is for a lot of kids today. At home, they could be a nobody. They might not get any attention from their family. But then they could be on TikTok or on Facebook. And then they've got thousands of followers. Everyone's admiring them. Or it could be the opposite. Maybe they get a lot of hate online. And then in real life, a lot of people like them. So there's these two polarities, which is what creates narcissism. And yet, for whatever reason, no one talks about this. No one really likes to make that connection. I mean, it could be because social media, the internet, at this point, it probably makes more money a year than pretty much anything in the actual real world. I mean, just look at Twitter. I think Elon Musk bought it for almost $50 billion. I mean, just think about that. And that's just one social media platform. So you really think they're going to reveal to us that, yes, your kids who are using TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, yeah, that's causing them to develop a mental illness. It's causing them to develop MPD. But this is the reality of it. And this is why I would advise for you, those of you who do have children, if I were you, I wouldn't let them have any social media accounts. At least not until they're of a certain age. I mean, for me, I would be quite strict. I mean, as you know, I haven't seen my daughter for 3 years. But if I had control over her, even when she's a teenager, I wouldn't want her on any social media. No Facebook, no Twitter, no taking selfies, no dancing on TikTok. I don't think that promotes anything good. I don't think it's healthy at all. But as I said, that's my personal belief. I can't tell anyone what to do. But yeah, I personally believe that social media, technology, phones, these virtual worlds, they are creating mental illnesses. And maybe it didn't for us because these phones with internet and social media and with cameras, that didn't come out until later in our lives. So our personalities were already developed by that point. And that's why we're seeing this more now. But yeah, I hate to get off topic, but I just wanted to share that as well. But as for the narcissist not wanting to let you go, it really is just an extension of their own self-hatred that they're projected onto you. And you're like this vessel that carries it. And if you get away, if they lose control of you, then it comes back to them. That's why they don't want to be left alone to their own devices. Well, for you, it was different. I mean, you never really hated them, even despite all of the abuse, all of the things that they did to you. With you, they became an extension of your own self-love by reflecting your qualities and virtues back to you. Well, the reality is they never even cared about it. It never mattered to them. And again, that's how it is with what you see on social media these days as well. People create these false characters, these avatars. That's not even really who they are. They don't even care about that. It does nothing for them. It means nothing to them. They're just putting that out because they know they're going to get attention, validation. Validate this avatar, this false character that they've created. This illusion. But that's got nothing to do with them as a person. They don't even care about it. And that's why when you look at it, same thing with narcissists. I mean, there really is a connection there as well. They're not even passionate about it. They can pretend like they are for a moment, but it doesn't last for long. And then it's almost like they turn against it. They begin to resent it. Because it's like they were using it to manipulate people. And then they get exposed. People find out. So then they turn against it. Because it's like, oh, this tool that I was using to get what I want, now it's not working anymore. And I know it's difficult for us sometimes to really understand this. Because we are real. We don't pretend to be about things that we're not about. We're not wired that way. We don't need to trick. We don't need to deceive. Because normally, I mean, you would expect that people would just be naturally about what we're about. I mean, that's normally a natural thing. But unfortunately, these days, it isn't. It's not a natural thing anymore. It's not natural for people to want love, to want a relationship, to want affection, even marriage, children. This is not a natural thing anymore. If it was, then why are the two most common illnesses of the mind, anxiety and depression? A lot of people feel alone. And not only that, there's hundreds of millions of views, maybe billions of views on the topic of narcissism and narcissistic abuse just on YouTube alone. Just on this one platform of many platforms. It's not a natural thing anymore. And yeah, I know you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, it looks like, oh, everyone's in love. Everyone's in a relationship. Everyone's living their best lives. They're married, they've got children. That's all just a show for you. Again, that's their avatar, their false character. They're just putting it out to get validation. So that it makes them feel good about themselves. Just like most of these celebrities, they make it look like they're with someone, they're happy. And then before you know it, they get divorced. This happens all the time. It's all fake. This is the Matrix. We live in a fake world. And then we wonder why so many of us, as chosen ones, empaths, we choose to be alone. And you think you don't like being around other people. You think you're an introvert. Or maybe the truth is you just don't like fake. You don't want to be around fake people. People who pretend to be happy. They pretend to be about something when really they're not. Maybe that's what the problem is. And I know many of you will resonate with that. I know I do. But anyway, I think I've gone deep into this one enough for this one. I know many of you are going through this right now. And I hope this brings you some comfort. I know these narcissists and this abuse, it brings a lot of frustration. It's like you do everything in your power to try and change it, to make it better. You're a fixer, you want to make things right, you want a resolution. But they don't. They don't want what you want. They're not about what you're about. Love, relationship, a connection. And yes, I know they made you think that they're about that. Just as a means for them to manipulate and control you. To have power over you. To get validation for themselves. They're all about themselves. They're self-absorbed and they lack empathy. They don't feel what you feel, but they can read into it cognitively. And that's how they get their narcissistic supply. or by scanning your body language, facial expressions, or tone of voice. That's how they do that. But that's all that it is. It's all just a shared fantasy. It's a dream. And that's all that it's ever going to be. If they were about that, it wouldn't have just been some fantasy in your head. It would have manifested into reality. If they actually had a vision for it, they would have taken the steps to make it a reality. But they didn't, because they're not about that. They don't want what you want. It's all fake. It's all a lie. And if you want to take your power back, all you got to do is bring it back to yourself and be like, they may not be about that, but I'm about it. They may not be real, but I'm real. As long as someone is about it, someone's real, even if that is just us, that's what keeps it alive. Because there needs to be a reason for it to continue existing. And that's not to say that one day you won't find someone who is about what you're about. Someone who is real like you're real. Someone who's not just coming into it to trick you and to get what they want, and then devalue you, attack you, destroy you, and then leave. Not everyone is like that. Some of us are real. And to know that, you just got to look at yourself. And I remind myself of that every day. Because I know I started this channel for a reason. And when I first began this channel, I didn't even know that I could make money from it. I didn't even make an income from it until after a few months. So for me, it was all about just sharing this information and improving people's lives. And by reminding myself of that every day and realizing that I am real, it helps me to keep going. By knowing that other people out there are real as well. Because you're drawn to me. You're drawn to my work. It motivates you, inspires you, it comforts you. So clearly, we have some similarities. We have a lot of things in common. And that's how we bond together. That's how we connect. And although, yes, I know I said this is a virtual world, and in many ways, I mean, I wouldn't say this is a false character. This is just like, it's another side to me. This is my avatar for this virtual world. And many of you connect to this side of me, which is a very real part of me. It is something that I'm passionate about. If it wasn't, I couldn't get on here and do these videos up to 1 hour long. I've been making videos now for 5.5 years. I couldn't do that if I wasn't passionate about it and if I didn't care about people. So that's what keeps me going. That's what motivates me. And I know many of you have connected to me through these videos. And I connect to you as well through the live chat and through the comments and many of your emails. And yeah, because of that, I feel validated myself. I feel like I'm doing something good. I'm doing something right. I feel loved. I feel appreciated. I feel respected. But not in a narcissistic way. I mean, if anything, it just motivates me to want to give value even more. Because I know that what I'm doing is good. I know that it's helping you. And that's really how it's supposed to be. Because it's not empty. It has depth. It leads to something good over time. But not just going into like some mindless, robotic state where we're not achieving anything. We are achieving things through this. So it has value. Unlike a lot of other things on social media, which don't have value, which are mindless and senseless. But yeah, I think this is sufficient enough. I think I've said enough for this topic. And I may talk about this again in future videos and maybe go even deeper into it. But I think for now, this will help those of you who are going through it. And I hope this brings you comfort today or tonight, depending on where you are. I hope that it relieves your pain. Because I know it's a horrible experience to go through. When you think someone's with you and they're not, and then you've got to grieve them. I understand. But I hope this has been helpful for you today. And if it has, you can show your support by giving it a thumbs up down below. And if you would like to donate, you can leave a super chat in the live chat, a super thanks in the comment section, or you can go to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hit subscribe and click all notifications to be notified when I upload a video in the future. For one-on-one coaching sessions, you can go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also you can follow me on Instagram. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. I post pictures and videos of my travels every day on my stories on there. So you can see what I'm up to. See what I'm doing when I'm traveling. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. I do appreciate you all. And I look forward to speaking with you in another live video very soon.